Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to this week's episode of Creepin' It Real, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories, in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner. As always, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our Coast to Coast techie, Chris Mabry. He'll be working hard tonight to help us run smoothly. I'm really excited because today's guest is one of my own New Jersey Spirit Hunter team members. And I am so thankful for her for filling in today when guests just bail out and don't show up. So she came together in a pinch to be with us today so we can share some evidence that we've gotten together on investigations. Please join me in welcoming Margaret Miller.
Hello.
Hey, Margaret, welcome. Thank you
Welcome.
again so much for coming in a pinch. I really appreciate it.
You got ghosted.
I got ghosted. I sure did. And I hate when people do that. But
Very
this is
rude.
probably the worst one of all because, I made up the flyer and sent it to them and everything. And then they just ghosted me. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just so frustrating. But nonetheless, it was meant that you are here and we're going to have a great and fun night sharing experiences with the public. And we've been together for several years now. We've done many an investigation together.
Yes.
I thought it might be fun to discuss some of them and share some of the evidence with the audience as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, antique store investigations can be quite eventful. For example, we did an investigation at Sophie G's attic at the shops in Lafayette, New Jersey. And Chris is going to put up some pictures so people can see what the building looks like. I did want to read a brief excerpt from my book, Sussex County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena, Part 3, about the book, about Sophie G's. We did an investigation in Sophie G's attic at the shops at Lafayette in July of 2021 after the shop manager contacted me about strange goings-on in the place. Chris, can you put up the inside picture of the antique shop? More specifically, a tool kept moving around the shop. Every time the owner of the shop put the screwdriver out to be sold, it somehow ended up behind the counter. And we discovered the culprit, the ghost of a young man named Jacob who died in a farming accident on the property. He liked the tool and didn't want it to be sold. That you can put up too, Chris. The owner agreed not to sell the tool and kept it for the boy. That's actually a K2 that we used on site that day too. Our paranormal investigation revealed that a bunch of children were haunting the establishment as well. Why don't you tell us what happened with that, Margaret? And you ended up getting some on your SLS camera with those children.
Okay, they were hanging from the ceiling was a baby carriage, and it kept swinging. So I'm like, all right, something's going on. Let me go over there. So I put my SLS camera on, and I got two figures coming out of there. I also got figures in the back. I don't have the evidence though, sorry. On the carousel, there was like a child sitting on the carousel. And I think he's the guy who was in the front with me that I actually captured.
Well, I know that we tried debunking it too because people would wonder, was there a draft or something that was making those things move? I do remember that the old baby carriage pram was hanging right next to kind of like a blow-up balloon sort of inflatable toy too. And I think there was something else on the other side, and they all kept moving, and we were moving around looking at the other items. There were other items around that weren't moving except for this. And I remember you going with your SLS camera and me saying, hang on, let me come behind you because I wanted to record you recording it, which I thought was pretty effective too.
It was.
But you brought that footage today with you to share with the audience. And it's funny for us to be able to say that you indicate that there were these children spirits hanging from the pram, swinging on the
Something
pram.
was moving
And that's
them.
the
Yeah.
footage that, yeah. That's the footage you brought with you today, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Well, why don't you run that, Chris, for us?
Hell, is it two or three? I don't know. There's two. What are they doing? I mean, are they right? They're standing right there.
Yeah, that was something. Forget the
We can't get it to
language,
run
but
right yet to show everybody.
the language, I was like, what the hell? That was probably my best SLS.
Well, we did see, like, when he was showing it, the picture shows the figures on the screen, but I want to actually watch the video, so he might have difficulties. So please stand by. There we go. So you do see the figures
Two or three?
on the screen.
I don't know. There's two. What are they doing? I mean, are they right? They're standing right there.
It's very cool, though.
And we saw those things swinging. And then in the back, they were back there. That was pretty haunted in there.
I know that the shop owner was thrilled that we were able to figure out the mystery behind the screwdriver. And in the end, he and his wife were happy that they were like fostering spirit children. And they called
Yeah.
them by name every morning when they entered the shop, especially the young man who wanted that tool for himself. So they were happy campers after we left there for sure.
Yes, that was a nice night. I mean, we got a lot of evidence in there. A lot of things
Yeah.
were happening.
Yeah. Besides the antique shop Sophie G's, we did an investigation at 3B's Findery, located in the Branchville section of Frankfort Township in New Jersey. And the first time our team went in there was around 2021, which ended up with an unexpected spirit making an appearance. And I think you may have been there with us, but I'm not 100% sure when we went that first time. But we were calling ourselves the Lady Ghostbusters at the time because we were primarily made up of all women except for Art at the,
Yeah,
at the time,
I don't
who was
think I
part
was
of our
there.
group. But the
I was the
3B,
first.
no, the 3B's Findery, located in the Branchville section of Frankfort Township, is owned by Lori Campbell and Danielle Scarpula Dipple, and it was purchased in December 2019 after they had rented it for 3 years prior to buying it. The building is filled to the brim with dated items such as vintage signs, old-fashioned walls. Chris is going to put up pictures 4 and 5 of that building so that the viewers can see and get a glimpse of what the building looks like. But the owner said to me once a customer came in looking for a witch's broom and she wanted it for conjuring gathering.
Oh
And they
boy.
actually had one.
Oh
They
yeah.
actually had one and she left a happy customer.
Well, if they have a vampire kid, I'm looking for one.
The building, a vampire kid.
Yes.
The barn building is over 200 years old. It was built somewhere in the 1800s and it's believed to have been a sawmill in the past. I actually have two more pictures, number 6 and 7, that you can put up. And number 7 is an old picture of back in the day. In 2020, Danielle had reached out to me and she said, "You want to bring your team in?" And we've got all these spirits here, and I've managed to get rid of quite a few of them, but we still had some left. And how do you feel about coming and seeing if maybe you can help us get rid of the ones that are here? See, that's the building
Wow.
way back when. Yeah, that's in it.
Hmm.
So I was like, wow, that's great. We would love to come. And when we went to do the investigations, and sure enough, there were spirits there that we were having kind of like a communicative seance with, and they were older spirits. And at one point, um, we realized there was one spirit lingering in the background, observing things going on. And we felt that this particular spirit was out of place and that he didn't belong there. It was odd to the mediums because all of the resident spirits we knew were older, from a different era, but this one was clearly present day. And he was a young man wearing a baseball cap. And when the medium had described the young man, it was almost like my spidey senses spruced up. And it just came into my head that he may have been the spirit of a young man who had passed away a week or two prior to us being in this building, not on the property, but in the vicinity, in the area, in
That's the place with the mirrors of the
and I just
steakhouse that
listened
burned,
to
right?
that gut. Yes,
Okay.
yes, but this is the first time that we were there,
Okay.
and um, I listened to that guide that was telling me, ask him his name, and I asked him. I said, "Are you so and so?" And he said he was. And then it dawned on me, oh my goodness, that he was the young man who had passed away in the farming accident that week prior. And here he was in the spirit world, not knowing that he had passed. And unfortunately, it was left to us to explain to him what had happened. We had to put his mind at ease, tell him that his family was okay. I mean, I remember us women just sitting there hysterical crying. We were all in tears. And the
I wasn't
mediums
there.
and the investigators that were there that night. Okay, you don't remember that.
No.
You weren't there. Okay. It was just sad because when have you had to do something like that? When did you have to tell a spirit that he was gone? He was deceased. It was and he was young. It was really, really sad. And we were able to help him move into the light, but it was just really, really experience. But because of that, I wanted to go back. And so in August of 2022, because of the amazing activity we had experienced that first time we had gone, I said, could we come back again? And she was like, yeah, we would love to have you. And so that's when you came with us. That's
Yeah, I
the
believe
second
Joe
time that
was
we went.
there. Me, Joe, and you went, I believe.
Yes, yes. And we had a great time. We
Yeah.
caught orbs,
That and
audio, and
we got the guy who kept
faces in the
saying he was
mirror.
hurt, he was burned, he was hurt. I have it on my my
Yes.
SB11. He was like, "Oh, I'm hurt, I'm burned," and they had that mirror there from the fire. That was cool. And I
Yeah.
got an
Do you
orb in that
remember
room.
where that's right. The mirror from the fire. Do you remember what location they got the mirror from? Because the spirit came in attached to that mirror that was taken out of a restaurant fire somewhere in New Jersey, right?
No, it was Delmonico Steakhouse in Manhattan.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that she picked those up because she liked them and she put them in her shop. And I think something came with them because there was a fire there and they were redoing it. And she got the mirrors from a auction house in Montclair.
I also seem to remember when we had the footage of the audio, I seem to recall he was saying something like he was hot or help me, I'm burning or something. Do you recall that at all?
Yes, because you were chatting with him. He kept saying, I'm hurt. And you said, how were you hurt? And he said, the fire.
Right.
Because I was down there, I was alone on the bottom floor. And you guys came down because I was chatting with him. And then you started, you picked him right up. And he was very chatty. I recommend that SB11. That really brings through a lot.
When you were on the second floor and you got the orb, what was going on then? Do you remember?
We were just all walking around and I was just snapping pictures. So I snapped like, 31, 2, 3. And when I went to look at it, I saw that little orb in there. I'm like, oh, because I had the prior picture and I had the after, and it's not in either one. It's just in the one.
Well, we have picture 8 without the orb that
Mhm.
Chris can put up. and then picture 9 he's going to put up with the orb. So let's show them 8, because that the idea is you take them in succession, like 1, 2, 3, like you said, 1, 2, 3, and oftentimes you'll get something in one and not the other. And
Yeah,
so
there it is. Okay, that
that's
one had.
exactly what happened in this instance here.
Yeah, there's nothing
This is the
here.
one. This is the one that's without,
Correct.
right, and then he's going to put up the next one, which is picture
There it
9 with
is.
the orb in it.
There it is.
There it is. See, it's the orb is like right in the middle. Yep.
Yes. I was so
Yep.
excited. I'm like, oh, look at that.
I know. I get so excited when that happens too.
But I'm also
I
noticing
do
your
too.
K2's on the floor. That might have picked up some too.
Mm-hmm.
But the item on the right with the swirls in it, that's the mirror. That's the mirror from Delmonico's, and it was like shooting out of
Oh,
there.
that's the mirror.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. They're
Oh.
like antiqued.
I did not realize that that was the mirror.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. That's why I
Interesting.
kept snapping in that room, because I'm like, if there's a fire and this mirror was there, it's got to capture something. So I got it and keep looking at it.
Yes, you did. I believe Joe, our team member, also got an orb that same night in a photograph that he had taken while we
You
were
might have.
there. And I did get a face in the glass too at some point, which was pretty cool.
I love looking at these pictures. I'm looking like, oh,
I do too. Well, you know, when I asked her, while connecting with spirit using the dowsing rods, both the owner and I distinctly heard 40s music coming from one area of the room on the second floor. Did you hear the music too that night, the 40s music?
I don't think so, because I like to go on my own, and you guys were upstairs, and I went downstairs, so I didn't hear it, but I could hear you guys saying, "Oh, did you just hear that?"
It,
So
sound,
I didn't
it
personally
sounded
hear
as
it.
if it was playing directly out, sounded like it was playing directly out of a gramophone. And it didn't make sense at the time it took place, but it came together a little later when you came out with the name Paul from your spirit box. Remember that?
Yes. Hmm.
And your obelisk revealed 2 words that popped out: Europe and band. And then while we were down on the main floor, I took note of a huge piece of wood hanging above the cashier counter, and it had writing on it.
Oh yeah.
And they told us that they had gotten the wooden piece from inside the wall of the building while they were renovating it. Ironically, the wood had writing on it that said July 31st, 1941. Hitler and Stalin both lying to beat hell. Japan is asking for a lacing, bombed a U.S. gunboat. Haig called Governor Edison names, and we all hope the SB Haig is licked. Draftee service is extended for the duration of emergency. Paul C. Hooper, which was so cool because
Paul and
this
Paul.
man kind of wrote, it was almost like a diary entry on this wood,
I
and
remember
you got
that.
the name Paul.
Yeah.
His name was Paul. And it also said government collecting old aluminum for airplanes. Great Britain is gaining in air power and bombing the hell out of French and Germany.
Europe.
Good. Roosevelt can't make up his mind. Far ahead of anything. And there it goes, Europe.
Yep.
So I don't think it was by chance that I noticed the sign in writing. I think that Paul was making me find that sign in the writing to make the connection that Paul was Paul C. Hopper, because you got the name Paul from the Spirit Box, and we heard the band music, so that band fit right
Wow.
in
Yeah.
with band and Europe. And then, like I said, then we ended up getting the orbs, but we think that the orbs came from that mirror from Delmonico's, right? You would,
Can you hear
I
me?
would
It's
assume that
got
that's where
muted.
they came from. I think that the orbs came from the Delmonico's mirror. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you still hear me? Have I lost your audio? I think, are you there?
I got
There you are. Can
muted
you hear me now?
somehow. I can't hear.
That's okay. What I was saying was, I think that the orbs came from the Delmonico mirror. I think they may have. Anyway.
I'm having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay. Are you there? Paul, if you're there, you're supposed to help us get this audio out so we could tell the audience about you being there that night at the investigation.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
I can't hear anything.
And you can't hear me. Oh boy. Okay, that's not good. Can you see the chat? Let's see. Can you see chat? Let's see if I can get her.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was weird. My
Oh my
computer just
goodness.
went down. I've never seen that. The
Hmm.
volume just
And I was saying somebody's messing with it and doesn't want us to hear what's going on.
you
You're
never
going in and
know.
out. I feel like you are you still. Ah.
What was that?
Okay. Well, we also did an investigation in High Point. That was me. we we also did an investigation in High Point Country Club in Sussex County in the former home of a mafia member, now converted into 3 separate apartment rentals. Do you remember the mafia guy's name?
Oh boy, it was a DeMeo. It was a DeMeo.
DeMeo. I have a picture of him. I have a picture of him. It
That's
was
him.
number 10 picture. Chris that up.
They call it the Mafia
I had been
Slaughterhouse.
at a book signing in Milford, Pennsylvania, when this elderly woman came up after to ask. She had come up to me at book signing, asked me to sign her book, and subsequently told me that she and her husband were experiencing some really awful thing in their apartment and they were looking to move as quickly as possible. It was actually affecting their emotions and their moods and their physical being. And
Yes.
she said, if you guys want to come in, if you guys want to come in, we have a limited, that's the picture of the mafia guy who owned it. It was his manor country house. And they used to have parties and polka games and women and all sorts that you can imagine going on in this
Hmm.
place when he owned it. But now it was converted into these apartments and she and her husband lived in the one. And we had limited time to go and do an investigation. So we wanted to get in there as soon as
They
possible.
were weren't they like 3,000 square foot apartments? That thing was huge, all of them.
It was enormous. It
I've never seen
absolutely
it.
was.
It was like an old
I
mansion
believe
converted. It was big.
they had the bigger apartment, the elderly couple, than the women
Yes.
next door. But we ran into the issue of getting there. We were supposed to investigate the elderly couple's apartment, then we were to go to the 2 women's apartment next door, and then we were going to get into the apartment upstairs. But by the time we got to the investigation, which was probably maybe 2 weeks after I met this woman,
Ah,
the people in the upstairs apartment vacated the premises. They wanted out. So now it was like, okay, well, we have 2 apartments to investigate. So we do the elderly couple's apartment, and we ended up getting some really cool stuff. I mean, do you remember
I
there
remember I
in
remember
their
the cat
apartment?
sitting on me. I remember the cat because their cat sat on
The
me.
cat wasn't a ghost, Margaret.
But it doesn't go near people, and it hopped up on me, and I didn't know what to do with it. So there's a picture of me like choking it because I don't know what to do with the cat. But yeah, that house was something. It took me 2 days to recover from that. It took me 2 days to recover from that. I just didn't feel right when I got home.
Well, we saged ourselves at right after we got out the doorway.
Yeah,
Everybody, Joe pulled out the sage and we saged because it was just so heavy in that place. And I remember Art picked up an elderly man and he was kind of like hunched over walking. And we assumed that the stuff that was going on in the master bedroom had to do with him being ill. I mean, it was just
that's
an
the
assumption
picture.
that we made.
That's
That
the
was
picture
just
with
an
the
assumption.
orb. I sent you the
Yes,
picture.
which
That that
I'm
is
going to
it.
show that in a minute. But when we were in the apartment of the elderly couple and we were in their master bedroom, we were assuming the medical stuff that was going on was for the elderly gentleman. But then as we were walking in that room, we were getting more readings and visuals of an abortion. I don't know if it was just one abortion or if it was
That
two
back room.
abortions.
It was the back room. I truly believe that
Yeah.
because knowing who the house came from, there was something going on there, obviously, and I'm wondering if
Yeah.
there's any bodies in the lake behind it. That was
Well, we
yeah.
actually thought about that because one of the mediums got a visual of a body being thrown out the window and
Yeah.
pulled down to the lake. So I would imagine if they if they drained
Oh
the
my God.
lake and actually did some sort of investigation, they might have,
They probably would.
bones of more than one body, I would imagine.
I bet Al Capone's
But by the
there.
time we get over to the apartment next, you bet. When we made it into the apartment next door where the women were living, we got a whole other slew of spirits and negative energy going on there. And this is where team member Mark Gennaro got the orb in their bedroom. So we have a picture 11, which he did the consecutive pictures too, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And in the first picture, there is no orb. And then in picture 12, this is the one without the orb. And then the picture he took immediately after, which was number 12,
There it is.
right there, you see the orb? It's by the window.
Right on the shade.
Yeah, well, the yes, right on the shade. Now, the strange thing about this apartment was after speaking to the women, one of the two women was sensitive to spirit and they like to paranormal investigate on their own without really knowing what exactly it is that they're doing. And they had gone to an asylum, and I don't remember which one it was, but while they were there, the one woman decided to bring home a souvenir with her. And so she picked up paraphernalia that was in the asylum and pocketed it and brought it home with her.
Big
So
no-no.
here we were going, yeah, here we are going, okay, well, that explains it. Mafia guy, insane asylum, boom, what a clash
And
of spirit energy.
that bedroom that the picture was just there, that is the bedroom where a gentleman overdosed. So there was a death in that room. He overdosed,
Oh, that's right.
and they
That's
claim they
right.
can see him peeking around the corner, but you know, but they
Hey,
claim
it's
they see it.
possible. It's anything's possible. I mean,
And
remember what was happening to the elderly couple, you know what I'm saying, in their apartment. They would just they had to create a healing space to get
yes.
away from the bad energy in their apartment.
And Nicole was down in the girls' apartment. Her, I think, and Mark were there, and they were just like looking, and all of a sudden the door just closed by itself. The outside door just
Yes.
closed.
Yes. Yes, it
Oh
did. It
yeah.
closed on its own. But when we got out of there, we staged ourselves, like I said, and I decided to take some pictures because I do like to have pictures just in case I use the story for one of my books. And that's picture 13. So Chris can put up the picture of the outside of the building so that the viewers can see it's picture number 13.
Oh, there
And
it
if you
is.
look at this picture, do you see that blue anomaly at the top of the peak on the house?
Mm-hmm. And
All
there's
right. Well,
nothing up there.
I zoomed in on that. And I it's picture number 14. So, Chris, this is that anomaly. I don't know what the heck it is, but it looks strangely like some kind of figures. But that was what it was on top of the house when I took the picture.
I've seen figures like that before in other photos people took. So there's something, because I kept thinking they were Christmas
Something to
lights, but
it.
there's nothing up there. Yeah, there's nothing up
There's
there.
nothing up there. So I put them number 15, picture number 15. I just put them side to side. But then after I went home, I started going through my footage. You know how we do when we sit down and
Mm-hmm.
you listen to audio. You could put up picture number 15, Chris, if you want. Um, and I like to zoom in on pictures too and just kind of like browse through and see if there's anything, especially if I catch something that's strange in a picture. And all of a sudden I find a face in the window. That's picture number 16. Chris, you could put that up too. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that is definitely a face in the window. And I don't know what it is. That must be my thing. I can get these pictures of
Mm-hmm.
faces in windows and mirrors. It's picture number 16, Chris. And I guess that's just my thing. I'm good at finding that cemetery faces and that sort of thing, because you've gone to presentations of mine and you've seen like the
Yes.
figures that I get when I'm in. But I got this face. And then I did a side by side with the mafia guy. That's number 16. So you can put that picture up, Chris. There we go. I think that's him. I think that's his face. But I'll leave it to you guys to decide. But do you see the face,
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's him. I think that's the mafia guy.
Mr. DeMeo.
Yeah.
That
So
was
I really
really
do
some
hope that
house.
it really was a crazy, crazy
We should go back and see
investigation.
who's in there now.
Yeah, I think I do have the telephone numbers, and the elderly couple is already gone, but the girls are still there. I'm sure they wouldn't mind us coming back. If you want to go back, I can
Oh.
contact them and see.
And
They said they were never going to leave there.
they didn't have electricity. Remember that? They didn't have electric for like
That's
9
right.
months.
And then
Something
all of a sudden,
happened.
when they did get electric, it
It
was
blew
like
out everything.
$1,500 a bill a month, and the meter was going crazy.
And the
Yeah,
light
there was
bulbs
something very
flew out.
strange going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a crazy, crazy investigation. Well, you said you'd gone also to Blairstown Cemetery on your own, correct?
Yes.
What happened when you were there?
Um I was by Princess Doe, who's famous in New Jersey. I forgot what they named her now because they found her real identity, but I went up a few and I saw
They did.
there was a young boy who's, I think he was 12, that died in a car accident because they had it on his
I believe
tombstone.
he was. I believe it was 14, but
Was
the
it? He was
tombstone
young, yeah.
pictures, I think it's number 17. You could put that tombstone up there, Chris. And I think his name was Josh, you said? Yeah,
Josh,
Josh.
yeah,
There
there
it
he
goes.
is. I just started talking
And
to
then
him
he was,
because I'll walk around and I'll talk and see what I pick up. So I talked to him and it's on the recorder. He answered me.
all right, well, what did he say?
I said, Josh, do you want to talk about the accident? And a few seconds go by and I heard a sure. It's on the tape. Sure.
Oh,
It was sad because I'm thinking, he's there. That cemetery's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know. I get this feeling
mm-hmm,
like I'm there with him, like literally, I can feel it. And I thought this kid's all
mm-hmm.
alone. He's next to this woman who got murdered, and I don't know who's on his other side, but and that's a cool cemetery though. I forget who the guy was up there that died because like
It is. I remember
it's
I remember when I was looking for Princess Doe's grave when I was
mm,
writing about her. I went looking, walking around the cemetery, and I thought, I'm never going to find this grave. And there happened to be somebody there that was a worker. And I went up to him and said, could you please direct me to where she's buried? Because the young girl had been left to die or was murdered
yeah,
right in that location. And the town decided to bury her exactly where she was found. And they always had suspicion as to who it was, but could never really prove it. And then with the current DNA analysis that's available, they were able to actually find out who she was
yeah.
and figure out who her murderer was. And he's been subsequently
I was
arrested. I think it's like 38 years since that happened.
It was
I
more
think
because
it's
I think
like
I was a
38 years.
senior in high school, so it was 82, 83, and I remember when the story came out because we used to go horseback riding up in Blairstown, and I remember that I'm thinking, "Oh my
Mm.
god, we can't go up there anymore," but, yeah.
Well, you're sensitive to spirits, so you say you were just kind of walking around in the cemetery, randomly come upon Josh's grave and felt a connection with him, and that's how the conversation started?
Yeah, when I go to a cemetery, the most people don't hear anything. I hear talking, I hear even when I drive by, you can hear, like, people I don't know, it's hard to explain, but, yeah, I'll just walk around, and if I feel I'm getting the connection with them, I'll turn a tape on, turn a camera on, and this time it worked with Josh.
That's amazing. And do you feel like you finished your conversation with him and left off with a definitive
No,
completion that
no,
he was satisfied and you were satisfied both? No?
no, because I talked to him, then I listened for my recorder, and then I moved him on. I didn't go back to him and say talk about it or anything. So I have to go back up there because it's unfinished business to me. So probably in the summer
Yeah.
I'll stroll up.
Well, well, I was talking to Joe about a week ago and I said to him, now that the weather is warmer, we can just pick like a Sunday and
Yeah.
do that. Go to the
Oh, I'd
cemetery
love
because
it.
I do like going to the cemeteries because I really do get some great
There's one up.
evidence from.
Wasn't there one up by you? Who was buried in there? Somebody was buried in the stones. What was that? There's something about
Are you talking?
it was the cemetery when you first go in, there's like a little house or something, a stone, and there were people buried in there. I can't remember.
It's in Newton and it's actually
Oh, okay.
it's in Newton and it's a tunnel that has been sealed off. And on the
Oh,
outside of the tunnel, they have a memorial because at one point in time, three siblings ventured into the tunnel and never came out.
okay. I
So that
kind
family
of remember it, but
lost all three of their children in those tunnels.
oh, I'd
I
love
wrote
to go
about the
there.
tunnels in my first book,
Hmm.
Sussex County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena, because we have tunnels going throughout the counties surrounding Sussex County and in Sussex County that people used to use those tunnels during the hot season to go from one side of town to the other side of town. But they have so many different branches that if you don't know where you're going, you can get lost, which is what ultimately happened with those three children, and they never came out. And
Oh,
then there was also an incident that I wrote about in the book where a scoutmaster took his troop of boys and they were going to go, I guess it's called spelunking in the caves in Lafayette. And I mean, when all was said and done, it was going great up until they got to a very tight portion of the cavern. And when the scout leader tried to move his body through, he got stuck.
oh,
And so they had to try and get him out. And they went and got the fire department and they worked for hours and hours to try and release this man from his entrapment. And unfortunately, he succumbed to the elements and didn't make it out.
really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened in, I believe it was the 80s as well. And this is, like I said, they've gotten in Newton, some of the older homes still have access through their basements to these tunnels. Because back in the olden days, they would use these tunnels for storage and deliveries and that sort of thing. In fact, the fire department knows of these entryways in various businesses on Spring Street. And sometimes when a building is sold and a new one is being put up, if they find one of these openings, they usually seal it. For example, when New Jersey Herald was putting up their building, whenever that was, they unearthed an opening to one of the branches of these tunnels and sealed it up as
Oh,
well.
wow. I wonder how they
So
ever
it's
built
very
them.
interesting.
Yeah.
They, I don't know, but I know that it's really cool, and I would love to get to go in those tunnels if I was ever able to do so. But
You go first. We'll be behind you.
they're I'm talking more from those Spring Street entryways, like
Mhm.
from in the basement of some of those buildings. When you open up the door, the tunnel's wide enough for you to walk. I mean, there's actually speculation from old timers that have said that there's a lake underneath there, and there's actually a
Wow.
boat on the lake. So
Wow.
there are parts that are walkable. One of the people that I interviewed in the first book, he had said that when he was younger, he and his buddy were riding their bikes and he came to this one entry and he said, listen, I'm telling you, I'm going to go through and meet me at the other side of town at so and so, and I'm going to come out and
Oh,
meet you.
wow.
And he was like, BS. And sure enough, he went, and there comes this kid riding out from the tunnels because I guess
Wow.
his grandpa used to go down there with him, and his grandpa showed him where to go. So they were pretty well known in the 70s and the 60s. And then I
Mm.
guess they get lost in time, sort of, when the old timers pass away, and there are
Yeah.
only certain people that know, like the fire department knows about them, and I guess some businesses that have the entryways know about them, and some homes that are really old that are in Newton and Spring Street know about them. But yeah, I would like to go to that cemetery, so maybe we'll do that in a couple of weeks, or I'll talk to Joe, and
Yeah.
we'll make a fun thing to go there and check it out, the tunnel. It's little, obviously it's just a gravestone now, but it's a very old cemetery, so it should be interesting enough for sure.
Mm.
Plus, there's a couple of cemeteries in Sussex too. There's two that we could go to that are really old, and there's one in Vernon, so we could check those out.
Oh,
Maybe go
yeah.
like around 4 o'clock when it's dusk, just before dusk, and
It's my time. I'll
because
be
we
up
can
by
get
then.
some really good footage too.
Yeah,
Yeah, we know Margaret sleeps the day away.
I got a new camera too. I got the infrared like Bobby Gallo had. I got that camera. It's the cheapest looking thing, but boy,
Oh,
does
you
that
did
work
get
good.
it.
Yeah, it came in the mail the other day. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in here.
Wow.
I can't wait to use that. I'm kind of leaning away from the SLS camera because it's
Mar-
picking up static from like an Afghan. It's not doing what I want it to do. So I'm getting away from that.
hmm Margaret has her new toy.
I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere in here.
I'm excited to. Uh, we're looking to go back to the asylum in Pennsylvania,
Penhurst?
and we're looking to organize to go to Penhurst and Hell House. We're looking to go to. So I'm
The
going to
Hell
try and organize that for us during the summer.
the Hell House is having a Paracon. In
I
I think
saw
it's
that.
May.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's going to be out. Um, yeah, they're our next guests, actually. People who are from
Oh.
Third Eye Productions, they're going to be our next guests on the show. So I'm excited to have them. And I know
Yeah.
they're not going to stand me up like the other one, Abnormal People did.
Uh-oh, I'm solo now. I can't hear you, Chris.
I think she lost connection.
She's got bad Wi-Fi up there.
Yeah,
She should be coming back in soon now.
yeah, here she is.
I got kicked off. Sorry, guys.
You need one of those
Yeah,
Wi-Fi things. You can make your
oh
Wi-Fi
my God,
stronger.
it's awful when the connection is bad. So
I think it's the area. Yeah, you're
I'm sorry
up in
to
God's
everybody.
country.
Yeah, true that. So what's been on your agenda lately? I know that you are part of our New Jersey Spirit Hunter team, but
Hmm.
you do things on your own as well. What have you been doing aside from that?
Nothing really so far this year. I've only been I don't think I've gone out only with you guys this year. I haven't done anything
Hmm.
because I don't know.
You're
I
just
know.
waiting for me to you waiting for
Yeah.
me to organize everything.
After after ordering team clothing, I just needed a break.
Oh my God. Well, I appreciate you taking on that venture.
Never
You
again.
definitely helped me out because
Yeah.
don't say never. Never say never. No. Well, believe it or not, you're gonna probably like want to smack me, but after you did all of that, I ended up finding a woman at my present job who makes T-shirts.
She made yours, didn't she? I was going to ask you who made those creeping
She
it real
did.
ones.
Oh, that's right. You saw them when you came to the event in
Yeah,
Highland Lake
and I'm
Clubhouse.
thinking, where did she get those made? But you got 10
I'm
million things going
sorry.
on.
No, but it happened. It actually happened after you did the whole T-shirt thing. I'm sitting in my classroom, And my teacher comes walking in. Oh, look at the T-shirt I got from my boyfriend for some event. I don't know if it was their anniversary or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute. Where did you get that? And she says, Caroline Murphy does all these T-shirts. I guess it's screen something screen paint or screenshot. I don't know what they call it, but because that's not my thing. But
Was she in
I'm
our
like, you're
price range?
kidding.
Was she like what we paid?
Yeah, I would like to think that. Yeah, yeah. It
Next
might have
time
been.
we
It might
change
have
our
been.
group,
Well, I don't know how.
we can change our group
We're
name
not
again.
going to change our group name. We're not going to change our group name again. Our group name is staying the way it is now. We have men and women, and we're formally the Lady Ghostbusters now in New Jersey Spirit Hunters. We're not changing our name again. But if we ever want more T-shirts, I have some place to go
Yeah,
for them.
right.
Oh my God. So I'm sorry. I do appreciate the effort that you made to get the T-shirt, the baseball cap, and yeah. So thank you.
And Joe got a free dinner that night because he helped me. We went to the
Ah.
diner.
All right.
Because
That was nice.
he knew the woman. No, he was helping me. I thought, let me buy the poor man dinner, So he's the one who got me. Yeah.
Ah, that was nice. That was thoughtful. Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight to talk about some of the evidence that we've unearthed
Oh, you're
over our
welcome.
course time. I know there's a lot more, but we usually only talk about 3 different things when we're on the show. So I'm sure I'll have you back on sooner or later to cover some other stuff. And I
Hmm.
definitely hope that when we do our investigations that are coming, because we have 2 private residences coming up in May, I believe it is. And
And
then I want to do the cemeteries with you guys, and I
and
want
you
to
have
try and do
two
the
events.
Penhurst and the
You have
Hell
two
House
events
too. So
coming up.
hopefully.
You have two events coming up. The Bean.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. I do.
The
The
sidekick will
the,
be
the
there.
Daily Bean in Vernon. That's a sold out event.
Mhm.
You're my sidekick. You're going to be helping with the investigation. That's right. But that's people are coming into this old cider mill. And we're going to do an investigation. And then there's the brick and mortar marketplace in Lafayette. That is going to be an investigation as well. Yeah, that's right. So maybe that will warrant some stuff too. I'm
Yeah.
excited. You never know. We'll
Yep.
see. So thank you again, Margaret,
Oh, you're
for coming in a
welcome.
pinch. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you. You know that.
Yeah.
And thank
Sending a
you,
hug.
Techie. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Techie Chris, too. We couldn't do it without you. He's somewhere around listening.
He's probably watching football or whatever's on now. No. Bye.
think she should be back in just 1 second.
She lives in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing up there. Here she comes. There she is.
In my defense, how often has this happened before?
It's you got to get the Wi-Fi booster. Like, where is your?
Yes, mommy. Yes, yes, mommy. Okay, we'll do.
And
No,
I hear
this is not really
no, but
happened. It's not really.
it's just your area up there. Just sometimes I lose
Yeah.
signal up there. It is what it is.
Well, I'm sorry, listeners. We've had a rough night of it, but we've stood steadfast and hung in there, right?
Yes, we
In our
did.
defense. And if you like listening to this week's episode and you're into all things paranormal, check out my other show, Eleanor Wagner Strange and Scary World podcast out of the Paranormal UK Radio Network, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. And if any of you are interested in reading any of my books, you can find the links to them on my website, authoreleanorwagner.com. I write about the history of the town and location. I add the paranormal story to the mix, and I finish it all off with photos and evidence. And I'm excited to share those T-shirts that Margaret and I were talking about
Oh,
from my
yeah.
Creeping It Real podcast and Strange and Scary World podcast. If anyone's interested in getting one, just email me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. They're $15 each. And lastly, viewers, tune in on Thursday, April 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when I will be interviewing team members from Para and Third Eye Event Productions about their many investigations and the evidence they've unearthed. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own you've been filing away over the years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals. Reach out to me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real-life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.